And then another Q trust, the qualified domestic trust. So I mentioned earlier when I was going through the four types of people who might need to pay attention to this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and the drop of the exemption, is for those with non-U.S. citizen spouses. So green card holders in particular get a lot of the same benefits as citizens. I mean, even when it comes to the estate tax, you still get the 13.61 million exemption, or the 7 million exemption in 2026. You can still give as much money outright to your spouse, an unlimited amount of money to your U.S. citizen spouse without estate tax issues. But unfortunately, the U.S. citizen spouse does not have that same privilege to be able to give an unlimited amount to a non-U.S. citizen spouse without estate tax issues. So the QDOT trust is the way to get around that. So by putting money into that QDOT, so first of all, the U.S. citizen spouse probably want to fund some sort of credit shelter trust with their estate tax exemption amount. But then anything above that, if they did not put it in the QDOT trust, they would have to pay the state taxes on. So the QDOT is a way to get money to that the non-U.S. citizen spouse without immediately having to pay estate taxes on it. And so it needs to have a trustee, an independent trustee who is based in the U.S., and it needs to have certain, the surviving spouse has to have certain privileges to the money, access to the money. The issue there is every time the income payments are estate tax free, but anytime any principal payment is then made to that non-U.S. citizen surviving spouse, that's when the estate taxes has to be paid. So it is a way to delay the estate tax, kind of the same way you would upon, if it was a U.S. citizen spouse, that estate tax probably have to be paid at that spouse's death. In this case, it has to be paid when the spouse actually gets the money. So the idea of this trust is to maintain those assets for the next generation, take advantage of portability between the spouses, and make sure that those assets can potentially be included in the non-citizen spouse's estate at death and using their exemption amount.